DMs, what happened the last time your players said, "Fuck it, we ball"? Today's sponsor is History of Heroes. Come witness the backstories of up-and-coming adventurers, hand-illustrated and dramatically narrated by the Forever DM, from before they made their first appearance in the best available. Link in the description. Hotline Kma. Playing Lost Mines of Phandelver. High five! The party needs to head to Kma Castle, already level 4 since they'd done literally everything beforehand, including driving off Venom Fang. They decide to waltz in the front door and kick off combat. The first encounter goes well, and I'm about to transition to the next part, but the druid wants to keep Moonbeam up. The sorcerer has Hex via Magic Initiate, and the artificer is holding his tiny cannon. The party decides to bum rush the castle, turning it into a Hotline Miami level. Everyone's kicking down doors and blasting everything in sight. Surprise rounds went both ways, but in just over 2 in-game minutes, by 6-second combat rounds, they cleared the entire place. It was chaotic, ridiculous, and absolutely hilarious. Feathered Rex Chaos. 2 sessions ago, we were playing in a heavily homebrewed version of the MTG Ixalan setting. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Correct me in the comments below. I made custom regions with random encounter tables, warning the party from the start that some encounters might be out of their league and should be avoided. The party rounds a corner in the jungle to see, across a river, a feathered Rex tearing into the belly of a dead Brachiosaurus. In this setting, a feathered Rex is essentially a white dragon. The party is level 4. This thing's basic bite and tail attacks could easily knock any of them unconscious in one hit. It could outright kill the bard or rogue even at max HP. To their credit, they tried to sneak away, but of the 5 party members, 3 rolled under 5 on stealth. The Rex roared and charged them. We rolled initiative, and it beat everyone going first. It charged the Barbarian but missed their AC by 1. I mentioned the attack would have dealt 35 damage, and they freaked out. The Rogue pulled away and fired his short bow to draw attention. Crit. His sneak attack hit for about 30 damage, roughly 20% of the Rex's health. They didn't know the exact number, but listened intently as I narrated the shaft hitting just shy of the beast's eye. The energy in the room shifted. The Rogue said, "Hear me out. We just need to hit it that hard a few more times." He was only half joking. And then, they decided to go for it. The Druid and Artificer used Fog Cloud and Entangle to limit its movement, and give it disadvantage on attacks. The Barbarian kept chipping away, while the Rogue and Warlock fired arrows and spells into the fog. It was a tense back and forth, several misses, a few hits. Each time the Rex rolled damage, it was enough to wipe one of them out, had it connected, but it kept missing. The Barbarian landed a critical hit, and the Rex was bloodied. Spells were dry, and it had left the fog cloud. The Barbarian risked it all, running to bait an opportunity attack, and barely survived the tail swing. They had the chance to run. Instead, the Rogue used steady aim for another sneak attack. All we need is one big hit, baby! I watched him roll a nat 20. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it myself. The damage was absurd, almost max, and totaled exactly the Rex's remaining HP. They harvested it for parts, still in shock that it worked. If even one of its attacks had landed in the first round, they'd have been dealing with a cascade of emergencies. Instead, they dunked on the deadliest creature in that stretch of the jungle, baby. Oyo with the Reaper. We finally made it to the boss chamber of the dungeon. Most of us were at half health when the fight started. I went in first, carved into the beast, and it immediately knocked me down. It had an ability where if it downs you, it can steal your soul unless you pass a saving throw. Whew, I passed. Everyone else took their turns, and I got a healing word before my next turn. I stood up, carved into it again, and it immediately knocked me back down. Oh god, passed the save again. Woohoo! Cue 4 full rounds of combat where my character played yo-yo with the Grim Reaper. Down, boom, healed, up, knocked down again, boom, heal, stand up, repeat. We finally killed the thing. Now that character, a Rockin, which is a raccoon person, cool, Ranger Paladin, nice, is a cult leader devoted to an amethyst gem dragonborn. The Wrestling Barbarian. I was the one. A barbarian, level 5 or 6, I'm not sure, who had been arrested and suspended in a rusty cage in a jail. I argued that I'd seen our rogue pick enough locks that I could probably pull a shard of metal off the cage and jam it into the lock to see if it worked. I got a nat 20, baby. I got out of the cage and made it to a door, but my DM told me that while it was funny the first time, it wouldn't happen again unless I had actual training in picking locks. So I tried and failed to break the door down. Instead, I used thaumaturgy to scream through the bars in hopes of alerting the guards and messing them up from there. Unbeknownst to me, the party had already infiltrated the building and was on the other side of the door waiting. I screamed, the door opened, my barbarian shut up, and we attempted to escape. As we reached the exit, a guard convoy arrived. I started wrestling a named NPC in the doorway, blocking reinforcements from coming inside, while our warlock and rogue hid in a corner and the rest of the party dealt with the incoming guards. Then, Strahd materialized. We were teleported to a ritual circle and forced to fight each other, somehow returning to the main campaign afterward. Strahd was supposed to be a side adventure to give the DM time to write, but we'd lost our healer and we're having a tough time. After this session, I earned a custom wrestling feat for hitting the named NPC with a pedigree and describing my turns like wrestling matches. God, I missed that game. Team Trauma Themos! I ran Night at the Waystop Inn, a module available on DM's Guild, to teach my level 1 Curse of Strahd party that sometimes you just have to bail. The module introduces a mechanic where once the shit hits the fan, a new specter spawns every round. Winning isn't an option. You gotta run! The cleric volunteered to stay behind as a rear guard, buying time for the party to evacuate civilians. He was quickly surrounded by several specters and went unconscious as everyone else noped out. The fighter and rogue fought heroically to get him out. The fighter even asked if he could trade his second wind for extra movement to drag the cleric, which I allowed. Meanwhile, the cleric was making death saves. In the wagon fleeing the inn, the cleric was 2 up and 2 down when he made his final roll. A nat 1. He quietly expired as they fled the scene. I was horrified and offered the player a free resurrection at a nearby temple, but he was content with making a new character. That group is now affectionately known as Team Trauma Themos. Kraken Chaos. We were fighting underwater and had already defeated 2 aboleths, damn, largely thanks to blade barrier, telekinesis, and stacking damage. The third summoned a juvenile kraken, which promptly ate our warlock. The remaining aboleth fled one way, while the kraken fled another. The warlock said, "Fuck it!" and broke his artifact staff of the Forgotten One inside the kraken, dealing 24 d10 damage. Oh, it killed him, but it didn't take the kraken down, and his remains were still inside the beast. The cleric with a helm of underwater action and the fighter with a swim speed chased the aboleth. Over several rounds, they harried it and eventually killed it. Meanwhile, the druid in sunbeam form, as a giant octopus, couldn't keep up with the kraken. Ending her turn near my 15-foot swimming speed sorcerer, I used Dimension Door to teleport us 250 feet closer to intercept the kraken. It simply changed directions. Desperate, I used Dimension Door again to appear on top of the kraken. It attacked, hit, and swallowed me. With my last bit of juice, I grabbed the warlock's gear and some of his guts and Dimension Doored back to safety. The juvenile kraken hadn't dashed, so the giant octopus caught up, grappled it and resisted being eaten. The druid maintained concentration and shoved Sunbeam into the Kraken's face. It failed its save, and she finished it off. This was the end of the campaign. The DM later confirmed that both the Kraken and the Aboleth were intended to return in future campaigns, and he didn't think we'd be able to stop them both. Night Hag Horror. A bunch of level 3 characters fresh from barely escaping the Death House and Curse of Strahd, lucky you, were on low HP and out of spell slots after a short rest. It was nighttime, and we heard an old woman with a cart selling pastries. Oh god. Then we noticed she was accepting children as payment. Our paladin lost it, casting Sacred Weapon and charging in with a cry of, "Fuck it! We ball!" The barbarian sprinted behind him, and the rest of us provided range support. The barbarian hit the old woman hard to knock her away from the screaming child in her cart. You've obviously hit people before. You know what your strength does. She doesn't move an inch. In fact, she barely registers the impact of your maul. Then, the DM described her transformation into a hellish demon. She hissed disapprovingly, revealing herself as a named Night Hag. The Gloomstalker critted both attacks from hiding, dealing a ton of damage despite it being halved. The wizard followed up with a max damage firebolt, and the paladin critted with a smite on his last spell slot. Thinking we were way too much trouble, the hag panicked and teleported away, abandoning both her cart and the child. A level 19 party had just defeated 2 apocalyptic level monsters released by pissed off gods. Said gods show up and basically say, "Leave this plane and never come back. We'll make sure you're remembered as heroes, but we're taking back our place as the gods of this realm." The party is getting bodied. 2 out of 6 members are down. They have the means to escape, nurse their wounds, and fight another day. But the sorcerer, with a subtle spell wish, grants everyone the effects of a long rest. They lose the ability to cast Wish forever, but the party collectively says, "We ball!" and stays to fight. The gods, realizing they can't handle this, collectively say, "Ah, screw this!" and teleport out. Christmas Special Chaos! Ho ho ho! A few years ago, we ran a Christmas special session that ended with a boss fight against, can't remember the name of the monster, a giant ice salamander. It gives off so much body heat that it deals damage when hit with a melee attack. I thought I'd finally found a good challenge for my fairly low-level party. They were around level 4 or 5. Just before the final boss fight, there was a fake-out boss battle. I added this to the module I was running since it was designed for even lower-level parties. They fought a Krampus-like summoner spellcaster and a group of chestnuts roasting on an open fire elementals. From the module, very cool creatures. After the fight, the floor collapsed and they fell into the salamander's lair, disturbing it. The party was already low on spell slots and abilities. My intention was for them to look for a way to climb out without fighting. Oh, but no! The drow fighter steps up, attacks twice, crits both hits, and takes the salamander down to 3 HP. The cleric finishes it off by casually chucking a throwing hammer at its head. Priceless Christmas memories. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and of course let us know in the comments below. DMs, what happened the last time your player said, "Fuck it, we ballin'"? And of course, if you want to join our membership, it'll be a huge help for us in the new year. You get early access to videos, maybe some extra goodies. We love you all. Please be safe this new year, and make sure to stick around for a whole new year of MrRipper stories. Toodaloo, and be safe out there.